What about kids using AI?
That's not a good idea.
Yep.
How can AI help your teachers get to 90%?
I'm glad you asked.
Do you have engineers?
0.00000000000.
I'm in love with what you're doing.
But when you look at the business models of schools, you go, wait, what?
Legislators
Oh my
don't
God.
really know how to prompt
Come,
ChatGPT.
it's going to be fun.
She didn't use AI in a better way.
You're all
I think-
disbanded.
Just stop it now.
Dreams in pieces lay behind the scenes, the price they've paid. We study close, reveal what's real, deconstructed truths unsealed, deconstructed.
So welcome to the Deconstructed VC podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
It is a pleasure to have you here. You're in a very important niche that a lot of people have ideas about.
And we are very curious today, as always, but not only from the business side, but also as parents, because Noam Gerstein, is it the right way to pronounce?
And it's a way to pronounce, amongst many. All of them are fine. Yeah.
Okay, because today we are having Noam Gerstein. She has created Bina as a global digital primary school that has precision education.
For kids 8 to 12?
Yeah, so we fully educate, and when I say fully, I mean 5 hours a day, 5 days a week, 200 days a year. Kids aged 4 to 12 cross geographically, so we have kids in different places in the world studying together every day. And it's a digital international school for little humans and their adults.
And you has founded the company in 2020, and now, no?
Well, I got a micro grant in 2020. In 2021, we founded the company, but we very deliberately kept it tiny and beta because we're not in the business of moving fast and breaking kids. And so the method strategy was just to first prove a methodology, make sure that we really believe that this is superior education to what there is out there. Then prove a market and make sure that there are people that love it and want this type of life with their families and are willing to pay. And then start building the product that allows this type of quality to scale.
Yeah, this is not the type of business when you can test hypotheses every week.
You can test a hypothesis every week, and we do, but those need to be very it needs to be very specific and very planned, because outcomes are not usually. Sometimes, but yeah.
So just to talk a little bit about the concept first. This is not homeschooling. This is a remote school. What are the differences?
So basically, millions of families are looking for stable international education that is attentive and that fits their lives. And that is harder and harder to find. So they can choose old school, which is inflexible, let's say with varying levels of quality.
Very.
Even in the fanciest schools, you have like best case scenario, 20 kids in a class, which is a lot. And it reflects a society that is not exactly how we live today anymore, right? Just the structure of it. Their other option is homeschool. And it means that it is very, very hard to do. It takes immense resources. It takes a very specific type of, let's say, familial structure to be able to hold this. And a lot of people are very uncomfortable with the idea that, they will have to educate their children because they're not teachers, and it's a profession, and it's a hard one.
Yeah.
And so what we're building is this middle category for Generation A and their adults that is not old school, not homeschool. It's this new thing that it's still schooling in very, very high standards, done by professionals, but it's not old school. It's meant for how people and their kids live today and probably will tomorrow.
So a lot of people, when they hear about, and a lot of people who experienced school during COVID, say, appeal to this point that, okay, how would kids socialize?
So this generation, and so we need to really remember that during COVID, we did not use systems that are crafted to do miracles in this. We used stuff that is made for adults, definitely not for these stakeholders. It's not made for kids, not made for parents, not made for teachers. And it was hard for many, many reasons. What most people missed during COVID is the playground and the soccer field, less, the math class. But it's very important to say that, this generation are going to need two sets of, social-emotional toolboxes. One of them is digital and the other is physical. And obviously we strongly think that kids should be, playing ball and smelling each other's whatever. It's important, right? They need to be physically engaged with each other. So for the digital toolbox, Bina students spend a quarter of every day on social-emotional learning. So we actively work on negotiation skills and talking about our feelings and talking about our boundaries and discussing and collaborating and so on and so forth. So we put a lot of effort in crafting that. All the lessons are live, active, collaborative, real-time with a small group of peers and very highly educated educators. And so that's one aspect of it. The other aspect is working with families to ensure that the digital time the kids spend is on work and that everything that's not work is not digital.
True.
The other things, we're really close to the family, so we have kind of very active text life because our generation was obviously not educated to educate this way. And so we have a team that's called Family Care. And what they do is support parents in their parenting. And we do real-time actionable suggestions. So for example, Anna learned how to count to 5 and back today. Here's a cool game that you can play with her. 5 berries in 2 minutes, please, okay? But we also do things that are a bit more radical, and we kind of behave like an annoying grandma. Ben was talking about breakdowns today. There's a cool breakdowns group not too far from your house. We booked him a trial for Monday at 3. Is that okay? So we're really pushy to ensure that actively engaged in their local communities. Then this year we're going to try something pretty cute. I don't know how well it'll work, but we'll see. But we're going to start doing camps. So twice a year, stargazing, total nature adventures, inviting the families as well as the kids to come. And it's nice for the families because we take the kids. And do workshops for parents. But the kids are all around nature activities and stuff like that. We'll see how that goes.
Do you need camps like this for adults as well?
Come, you should come. It's going to be fun. And this is what we do right now. In the future, we envision hubs. So co-working spaces, cultural institutions, and offices, as well as even community centers, where kids could be minded in active environment, in multiple age, but they're still recipients of the best education in the world. So that's kind of in the future. You need more density than we have right now.
So you got small classes. It's like 8 people per class. You got a lot of people who work with them. And my question as a venture capitalist is, how do you make it scalable? How do you make it a business?
So for our younger kids, it's up to 7, and for our older kids, it's up to 8. That is from a child's perspective. That is not from an educator's perspective. So we have 2 types of educators. We have teachers and co-teachers. They have 2 different levels of pay grade. And they do a little bit of a different thing. There are many things that you can do in the digital realm that you cannot do in the physical realm. This type of business has three main levers, right? You have CAC, you have lifetime, and you have teacher's time. Teacher's time is very, very valuable because it's the heaviest, as you mentioned, the heaviest line on our P&L. There are ways to optimize it. What we're doing right now. One, scheduling. So in old schools, you cannot do a lot with scheduling because moving kids and humans around takes a lot of time and effort. But that's not true digitally.
Oh, yeah.
So we can really think in very fascinating ways, both educationally speaking as well as for the business model, with how to shift kids around in completely different ways that really fit their skills, that go very specifically on what they need, but that they bounce into different learning spaces according to, let's say, their concentration skills. And maybe they're in different groups for different areas of their learning, right? So this is something that we're testing right now. It also means that all educators are fully utilized.
24/7.
Well, actually, 24 is my next sentence. So we now have classes in Euro-Africa. So from the very north to the very south of the time zones, kids study together every day. Eastern and Pacific. By the end of the year, we're going to have classes in East Asia. That includes Australia, and Middle Asia will come in 26. That means that we're going to have a 24-hour school. Beyond the fact that it's just really cool. And it allows families, for example, to be very mobile as much as they want. But it also allows educators to not teach one time zone, but one time zone and a half, which is a huge margin difference. So those are just some of the things that we're working on right now.
So compared to an old school where they work like 9 to 3, your teachers can work 9 to 5 or 9 to 6.
Yeah.
Okay, like a full day.
A full day. But the thing is that in old schools, there are different assumptions. Some research suggests that they spend 32% of their time with students. Some research suggests that they spend 50% of their time with students. But the rest of their working time, they're doing stuff. Like a bunch of stuff, all kinds of stuff. They do planning, they do meetings, they do this, they do that. The aim is that we consolidate the stuff, ensure that whatever teachers right now do in schools that don't require humans are not done by humans, and we will get to that in a second. And what they do is connect with students, which is what they do best. And so the aim is to get to a place. We are already way beyond 50%, but the aim is to get to beyond 90%.
So 90% time with students.
With students.
That's beautiful. So since we got there, how can AI help your teachers get to 90%?
So, I'm glad you asked. Let's start with why teach digitally. Because there are a lot of experiences for all learners, the little ones, their parents, and the bigger ones, their educators, that are not possible in the physical realm, okay? We want to get to places where if you and I are doing a project about an octopus, we can go talk to it. And maybe it'll tell us all the myths in the world, and we can compare the myths around octopus. And then maybe we can do math on their tentacles. And if we do really well, maybe it'll let us into their bloodstream. And then maybe we can minimize ourselves and understand why it is blue, right? Great experiences that we absolutely need. The impossible and the unpractical and the dangerous and the expensive and the wonderful things that are great educational experiences and we should not be doing or can't be doing in the physical realm. This affects LTV. What we're building is a multiplayer 3D learning environment that is play-gen. And we can go a little bit deeper into how we're thinking about building it in a second. So that is one reason. The second reason is that in old schools, assessment was happening periodically. You and I went and had tests. Remember tests? Great.
Yeah.
So tests tend to not be a great reflection of how knowledge and skills are accumulated. And so we are in this amazing moment in time where you can move assessment from periodic tests to a continuum, where everything they do is continuously measured and evaluated. And so teachers don't have to do it, and it's accurate.
Do you have a social score for children, like in China?
There is a very, very big debate in the education community. A lot of people say, oh, soft skills are unmeasurable. And that's not true.
Like, can you measure whether kids are good or they're...
It's not good is one thing, and we are not in the business of good and bad, but we are in the business of, active listening, for example, as a skill. We can say in a progression, like how they progress on that specific skill, for example, right? Like they started out, like when kids are 4, they're not active listeners. Okay, it's not something that they're born with in most cases.
I know adults who are not active listeners.
It's a skill that you either are taught and you acquire it, or you understand why it's necessary and you acquire it, or it never comes to you, right? We kind of think that we should teach it, right? And so there is, like any other basically micro skill, there are ways to understand where kids are on the progression and what is the next step in their learning journey to get there.
So shifting gears to, again, AI, so not shifting too much, but...
Can I just maybe
Sure, yeah.
follow up? I'm sorry. Because we're talking about the whole education, and we mentioned that you're doing precision education.
Yeah.
Can we define what do you mean by precision? And
Absolute pleasure. Yes, please. So it is, to some extent, high attentiveness, right? And so the aim is to have continuous, deep understanding of what learners know, what they can do, and to which depth at any given time, which would allow us, obviously, to react with the next activity, the next interaction, and the next and the next learning objective that is the most fitting to where they are at the moment. So the idea is to reduce lag and to create a very quick feedback loop into what's the next adventure, right?
Good. Sorry, now shifting gears to administrative stuff. How much do you think agents and LLMs right now can help just reduce this stuff that teachers do, like assessing homework?
Much. I mean, I think homework is a different story, but I think as multi-models actually progress, the way, and there are some pre-definitions that need to be made for this to be truly valuable, both educationally speaking as well as like bottom line, right? Those luckily correlate, right? The double bottom line in this type of business is very nice and striking. But let's say that other 50% or 70% depends on who you are asking. I would claim that a good, let's say if we land on the 50%, a good 47 of it, and to really, make sure that their students are seen and heard and understood, that I think is crucial. But I think on objective measures, if they could avoid spending time on, it takes a lot of time, as well as on planning. Plenty. Now, it would require very informed configurations, informed, I mean, by learning sciences, very informed configurations to make sure that it's scaffolded in a hallucination-proof way, right? So there's actually a lot of IP that needs to be done for this to be tight, but plenty.
There's a lot of debate about use of AI by students and use of AI by teachers going on right now. So 40% of schools in the US forbid the use of mobile phones, and only 10% of schools in the US have any policy on AI, which is funny, given that 90% of students use it.
Yeah.
A lot of times this policy is just let's ban this whole, like our Los Altos High School
I don't know.
is banning, ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude, everything.
Yeah.
And they
I
also
know.
use AI detectors. So like our daughter recently got an F, I think, for her ethnic studies paper.
It wasn't just, it wasn't scored.
Yeah, but they emailed me saying that, oh my God, she used AI to answer that. And
Did you take off your fan and go like this? What did you do?
I was actually a very...
He was sad that she didn't use AI in a better way.
No, I mean, like the whole thing is bogus because it's a handwritten essay.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so even if she used AI, she at least processed it and wrote it down.
Yeah.
And I was this close to using AI to respond to that email.
Did you not?
In the most ChatGPT way. No, I actually didn't. I was like, no, this is my daughter.
I'm not gonna share.
Yeah, like it, but if it was me, but it's funny. There's also this school that was recently all over the news, which adopted use of AI for tutoring, and their GPA scores got to top 1% of the nation. Claude has launched a new learning mode,
It's very
which
exciting.
we'll speak of a little bit.
Yeah, we also can mention Salah Khan, who did the Khan Academy. He was
Yeah.
the first one who implemented Gen AI into the system because he had an access to that before everyone. I don't think they can, in my opinion, they can do much more, but at least they already implemented AI tutors, so the way the kids can actually talk to you.
But I wanted to ask you about like policy making here.
Yeah.
Like, let's imagine for a moment that you can write any policy in the world, and this would get adopted by the majority of schools. What would the policy say?
I mean,
On
don't get
AI.
me started on what I think of schools. Before AI.
You're all
I think-
disbanded.
Yeah, just stop it now. No, I'm just joking. But I think I'm not going to give you a policy answer. And I think there are several things that are convoluted here. One is there is a confusion between medium and content. Those are tools. The question is how you use them, what's in them, right? What you feed them, and how much control you have over the content. As tools, they have pathways, right? Some of them are very, very helpful for learning. And some of them, in terms of pathways, this is before we get into content, right?
Oh, yeah.
And some of them condition a mind for a very specific pace, right? And now there's the world of what's in it, right? And so I think and the realm of banning phones is we can't have control of what is inside the phone, so we just can't, then we are not doing it. I think there is a place for a policy, in my humble opinion. Policymakers are the ones that have the responsibility to decide what should be banned to some extent, as well as parents. So it depends on, how, the belief of role of government and the parental role, and it's our responsibility, right, to decide what type of content our kids are exposed to and why. Those are decisions. It's not a given, right? And those are decisions. We have agency.
Oh, yeah.
Governments have agency to decide, well, this is not so good for our youth, so we're not going to allow it, period. Or until X age or whatever. There are ways to do this. This is what policy is for, right? Like, we don't let 4-year-olds drink because that's not a good idea, right? And so there are other ways to decide what type of content or what type of behavior is allowed here or not allowed here. And it could be allowed here in this country, or allowed here in this state, or allowed here in this household, or allowed here in this community. But it is definitely an adult decision that we should take responsibly. And so so I don't have a problem with the machine. I do see that there are good reasons to have some beef with what's in it.
Yeah. What about kids using AI to?
They must, but they have to learn how it's built, what it can do and what it cannot do, how to operate it, and how to evaluate the response, right? So I think we can't, I mean, it's a little bit like, when we were kids and someone would say, like, never use a computer, or like, never use a tractor. It's kind of, that's not a good idea. Right? But we have to understand what it can do and what it can't.
The calculators are simple in that way. They always give you the right answer. It's a single source of truth. Comes from, a simple arithmetic calculation. What about topics that are more ambiguous, which AI gives answers to?
Yeah, I mean, or Twitter. Or whatever, right? Like, so it's not just it's AI scrapes whatever is out there and gives you a whatever, right? So then you have to understand how to assess it. And I think unlike other sources, it's actually easier if you know how to use the tool well. It's easier to assess and verify it in some ways, right? Like, it's not like, give me the sources, let me see it, right? So it's more about the habit and usage, really understanding what this is about. There's a group that does quite good work on that around leading schools around AI policy. We can leave it in the chat, but they do good work. Yeah.
This is really cool. I will personally believe that banning anything isn't a good idea, because when these kids grow up, the world is built on technology. We cannot exist without it anymore. The society would just collapse without TikTok.
Well, to be honest, I think like there's a tendency when people cannot understand something, they prefer to control it, to ban it,
but
other than like make the guide rails for
it's such a big handicap for kids not to learn how to use it properly. And I think what you said is really important, is that being able to assess the answers, being able to understand how it works exactly, what it gives you, is just such a big moat for children that are taught to use these tools, because it's not AI who is replacing jobs, it's other people with AI who are.
But to be honest, I am jealous, because like in our childhood, we always live in the world when like there is one truth, is our like workbook, like the one that was
two kinds of opinions.
Yeah,
the
teacher's opinion
and incorrect ones.
Yes, and that like we used to have only one truth, and which is not right, because it didn't give us an opportunity to actually understand that information is something that you have to verify, you have to work with different sources, and you have to compare. And this is something that is not like given on the lesson. You have to work with that.
It's actually, I mean, you see that in many aspects of education, which is like because when we think about building any educational system, the idea is towards what? And we have to come up with really good answers to that, right? Education is always towards, how do we imagine, what does great outcome look like? What is the need there, right? And then we can walk back from that. And so I think if a great outcome is someone that takes information and moves on, right? It might be a great outcome for some education systems, right? Then that's a good way to go there. I don't know.
Let's talk a little bit about Bina as a business.
Yes.
So this is a beautiful concept where you basically take a large percentage of people that are looking for a better option for their kids, whether they don't have something in their region or they're traveling a lot or they just prefer it to be online and benefit from all of the virtual experiences and being inside an octopi. Let's say it's like 5 years from now. What is Bina like? How big is it?
And can we start with where the Bina is now? Can we mention any numbers? Like I know that you operate in 35 countries, and can we mention the revenue?
Yeah, of course. So we are in, right now we are in, we have 158 students today. They live in 35 countries, or they are in 35 countries right now. A lot of them are moving, which is pretty cool. We are at almost 1.5 in terms of ARR. We are 40 people in the team. Most of us are educators. What else?
Do you have engineers?
Do we have engineers?
Yeah.
We have one right now, and this next round is, as I mentioned before, so we've done a lot of groundwork, both in terms of understanding that the methodology is proof, and we got internationally accredited, which was very, very important for us. We're actually going to do some more. We're talking to Cambridge and the IB International Baccalaureate right now.
And you have very fancy advisors.
Yes, we have very fancy advisors, it's true. So we're hoping to really ensure that it's incredibly smooth to move out of us to any international school in the world. It's already the case, but we want it to be.
Well, in the US, it's so much smoother now with this new legislation that allows to
Education savings account you're
Yeah.
thinking? Okay,
Not a lot of people know about that.
yeah, so I can tell you a little bit about it. But education savings account is a $71.4 billion bill that basically in some states, it's not available in all the states, but in some states, the states hand vouchers to families to pay for education for their kids. The average, and quite a serious variation amongst the states, but the average is $7,000 a year, which is significant.
Oh, yeah.
And which allows us also to serve families that would not be able to support this quality in any other way.
Parents
so that's
have more options than just public schools around them.
Yeah. Exactly.
So if they're not putting their kids into public school, they can get a voucher for it and give it to you.
Yeah, and come to Bina.
That's super nice.
Yeah.
So what has been in 5 years then?
So in 5 years, we will be at 10K students, which is not new or novel, by the way, in the world of international schools. We won't be the first.
Oh, yeah.
10K students is 116 ARR, which is nice, but I wake up in the morning to educate millions. We would be a 24-hour school, which means amazing flexibility to families.
How many
as well.
engineers would you have?
How many engineers will I have? I think they should be a team of maybe almost 40.
Okay, 40 engineers and AI.
And yes, I would say like and many more AI agents.
Yeah, many more AI agents. So, but I do want to answer your question before. So that I built this business like a girl, meaning first, I know that the education is great. Then I know that people are going to pay for it. Then I can build all the fancy stuff.
And actually, but I know that you spent a lot of years before starting that just researching.
Yeah, I sat in a lot of schools in the world. So basically, I sold my first company when I was 26 and started living nomadically. I was really, really interested in this massive industry because I don't know if you know, but primary education is a $2.5 trillion industry, which is a big one. But when you look at the business models of schools, you go, wait, what? Because resource allocation is just so bewildering.
Oh, yeah.
And so I was like, okay, I guess I don't understand a lot of things. I'm going to go figure it out. And so I started sitting in schools and interviewing little humans and their adults to try and understand what are the differences and the similarities between the systems, and if we can maybe start thinking about a system upgrade. And so I lived nomadically for 6 years and sat in schools. In the last year, I spoke to mainly educational professors and developmental psychologists and people from the business and technologists to see whether the ideas that I was the stewardess of, let's say, are A, possible, and B, positive, which is how I also met Jim, who is one of our advisors and has been the Minister of Education of England for a while. And he's one of the many amazing advisors that we have right now. So, yeah.
I'm in love with what you're doing because this is very hard industry. Like everything around is evolving so quickly, but education, like public schools and other stuff, they are moving not that quickly, not changing, not updating their structures, not updating their knowledge base and other stuff. I truly believe that education has to be changed, and parents should know their rights, that they are actually choosing education for their children, not this is something they like go around and that's it. And you should have a lot of courage to just start like changing.
I don't know about courage because it's always like people are just afraid of different things. So there are two ways to think about systemic change, right? One is from within. And I think a lot of great work has been done in schools. Educators do wonderful things. There's a lot of innovation and a lot of research that has been done within the school settings. That's one way to go about it. But there's another way to go about it, which is to build a parallel system that is so compelling that the mainstream cannot not have it. And so if you think about, I don't know, like sitting in the cars with maps on your lap and weird stuff like that, you know, we could have continued doing that and making even more beautiful maps or interactive maps or I don't know what. But we have an alternative that is so compelling that you cannot not use it.
Okay, you can rebuild it from first principles.
First principles. And so, you know, and you can see it in very small things. For example, people ask me, how do you have the 4-year-olds sit all day? And I'm like, they're not sitting. Like, why? It doesn't really make sense for a 4-year-old to do that.
They're not sitting in the classroom as well.
So, I mean, the fact that they're sitting in a classroom is a problem, right? And so we can really think about every choice we make, we need to find a good reason to do it in research and then move along, right? And so...
I mean, like redesigning education from first principles is so exciting. So a lot of parents would, you know, like watching this and think, is there a way to try this without, you know, committing, without pulling their kids out of their school where they have friends, you know, and putting them in front of the screen, which sounds very scary.
I mean, again, it's always about what's in it.
Yeah.
But there are some ways. One is we teach year-round, and the structure of the school year is what we call biomes. So every month and a half, the entire school moves from one biome to another, which means now they're underwater. And everything they're learning is underwater. Their math and their history and their geography and so on and so forth.
I did the same when Sonia was 2 years old.
And so one can join us for one biome during the summer, for example, and see how it goes.
So you have classes also during the summer?
We teach year-round, and we have 9 biomes a year, or I don't know, in the winter, whenever. You can come for one biome, which is 6 weeks. An average of 4 to 6 weeks, depends on to which one.
I know that there was a large discussion about summer vacation, summer breaks, that they're too long, so kids
forget everything.
I mean, it's not a good idea. 2 months of break is not a good idea.
Yeah.
Like, we kind of know that.
Just so they were trying to like or reduce it, but of course, like the whole system is built on that. Yeah. It's impossible to move like.
Well, it is possible, but you have to build a parallel system for that. So no, we don't believe in a 2 months break. We do have in the summer we have because between the biomes every quarter the kids have a slightly longer break, or the families have a slightly longer break, and the one in the summer is a little bit longer because our families really wanted it, and so we were like, okay, but it's not 2 months.
2 months is
Actually, it's more than 2 months, because it's 2 months breaks, and then there's at least 1 month to get them back and to.
Somebody's still traveling. Somebody is just cannot get their head straight after 2 months. That's
Just they're doing tests and they forget everything. They have to redo a lot of stuff.
Yeah, it's routine building also, which is a big part. Yeah.
so that's a good idea for joining for one biome.
Yeah.
Any advice for parents how they can learn about that and maybe.
Well, first of all, go on our website. All you need to do is write bina.school and you'll get there. And so what happens, by the way, is you meet us. Our amazing team is going to explain and answer any questions you guys have. And then if you want to continue, your child will go on an adventure with one of our educators. It's also a really great way to have some reflection on where they are. This adventure is very, very fun and very, very sweet, and also an assessment. and so we try and understand what they need, exactly where they are, and what would be the best grouping for them. What
about languages?
Great question. So we teach in English. The kids there are some clubs in different languages, but we teach primarily in English. We take children that don't speak English. Mm-hmm. We have some families that don't speak English at all. And this is another thing that is aided in gorgeous ways. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
Is there still a need to learn languages for kids?
Definitely. And I'll tell you why. There is a really cool experiment where you show, there's a picture of a purple cat with wings and I don't know what. And you give it to a monolingual child and you tell them, is this possible? And the monolingual child goes, no. And you give it to a bilingual child and you say, is this possible? And the bilingual child goes, maybe. And you give it to a multilingual child. And the multilingual child says, yeah, I guess so. It's kind of repeated in multiple languages. It's a very cool one. So languages are perspectives. Mm-hmm. And the more you acquire, the more perspectives you have. I really think learning languages is very important.
Aids a lot of things, problem solving.
Yeah.
It's they're interfaces with the world.
Yeah. It's, just as an example, I have never seen multiple types of snow until I learned different languages. For me, it was like, there's one thing that is snow. And that's it. I'm sure you guys know that.
Oh, yeah.
There are many types of snows, apparently. But you don't see it, you don't perceive it, right?
I think I perceived them a little too much in my life.
Yeah. It's not that I need to encounter them, by the way,
but I do know about 15 different words for snow.
Exactly.
That Russian has.
And there are different things for you, right? And so it's a different lens and
different grades of horrible. Yes.
I'm with you on that one. I'm not a fan. But yeah.
It's good to understand. I also can probably now explain the meteo dynamics that lead to precipitation that forms at different kinds of snow.
Yeah, but you would never assume that there are different kinds of snow if you would come from my language, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. That's your language also doesn't have any vowels, which is
we have vowels, friend.
Not
we
written
have
ones.
Some vowels. They are written. We don't always write them, but they are written.
They're optional.
Yeah. They're optional, exactly. Yeah. It's just short. It's fast. Yeah.
Effective. Really cool.
In my book club, when we discuss sell con books, the new words, I think it was the most discussed book because all parents are so frustrated about education in general.
books for you. I don't know. Do you need some book recommendations?
Absolutely,
Yeah,
we
I'll send
definitely
over.
need. Yeah, people don't know what to expect.
They're gorgeous. Just literally in the last month, one beautiful book, Love to Learn, from Isabel Howe. Beautiful, so gorgeous. And another amazing book called The Disengaged Teen.
Yeah, that one I love.
Both highly, highly, highly recommended. I think they're brilliant, just for your book club. Yeah, just from the new ones.
So entrepreneurship, I think it's what is interesting here is how like a school is a business, but we kind of covered that a little bit. So and I think this is the biggest insight is that teachers just waste time.
I think it's not the only one, actually. There's another thing which is about edtech, and it's I would actually put it in. A lot of people invested money in edtech and got super burned. And the reason why they got super burned is that they invested into field-specific solutions. When you build field-specific solutions in education, you cannot make money. And the reason why you cannot make money is when you try and sell to parents, the CAC always surpasses LTV.
Yeah.
So you can sell to your friends, it's really nice, they'll pay $4, multiplication app, great. And then you need to start paying for CAC. Business model breaks, right?
Yeah.
Then you're like, I'll sell to schools, multiplier, right? No. No one can sell to schools because they don't have money, resources, time, or interest.
Oh yeah.
And so what happens with a lot of even great products is that the business model cannot hold. There are only two types of businesses that really make big buck in education. Private schools and publishing houses.
Yeah.
And Bina is the future of both. So
What about language schools? They're pretty big. Or coding schools.
No, but just the specific, yeah, we're talking about like education kids.
I mean, those tend to be vocational, right? Those are and they can make money.
Yeah.
But how much money?
Well, in this case,
And like compared to schools, yeah. I mean, like schools are a sinkhole for the government money. As the education is what, number 2 or number 3 category?
Depends on in which country, but yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, in the US.
The biggest problem in here, like ordinary schools, they have different stakeholders, and when you're trying to like solve the problem, you're solving the problem for like specific stakeholder who is not actually making decisions about money and other stuff. And in coding schools and language schools, it's more clear pathway.
Oh yeah, I mean, like people can, budget it better.
I mean, that is a very, very important insight that which is also why we're building the way we're building. So in many cases in education and in education products, the stakeholder question, the stakeholder versus user question is very, very problematic. Because in some way your user is not your buyer.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
And that dichotomy is very problematic to hold. Which is why, for example, we are focused on selling to families. And why a huge part of our product is for the parents as well, right?
And like just making parents happy about their kids' academic process. I think it's what is lost in the public school process at all. Like private schools do listen a little bit.
But it's about really building relationships and being like on someone's team. Like, how are we on Lee's team? How does that look like when we work together and we really there's a real support system? It's possible and it's cool.
Sure.
Yeah.
Good.
Thank you so much. I think it was very insightful, not only for founders, but for the parents, which is, I don't know, I'm thinking about trying.
Yeah, but for Lev, I think he would love it.
Yeah, give me Lev. For a month and a half.
Yeah, I think he actually loves
Sitting in front of the computer.
studying from home.
Yeah, makes sense. I mean, also like, all the 7 a.m. and like the bad meals and the, not necessary.
Oh, yeah.
Driving around.
We're lucky that driving is very close.
Yeah.
But yeah,
And also, I mean, you guys live,
in the best school district of the
Like,
best
it's-
state.
Even
really not-
student ratio like the teacher is not that bad.
Yeah, we're
you're
privileged.
You're uniquely positioned to offer quality education to your
Yeah.
kids, and actually, like it's 0.0000000001%,
Yeah.
right? So
There are like very, very few people.
And as we
are-
discussed, Nick is in a position when he's not movable, so we are not planning to move.
yeah.
I mean, unless you want to,
Well, it's
unless you want to not spend more than 180 days anywhere.
well, I make peace with the tax system.
no,
I feel
I'm
it's a
with you.
subscription for the good weather.
Fair.
So
This
I'm
is
only
good because
unhappy
now-
when it's cold.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm wasting money.
I like your approach because now we are in the tax season. We have to work on our taxes, and every time, this is the worst time because Nick is almost crying. Why it's not fair?
Yeah, it's like me and our daughter will both cry about taxes. She made a few $100 of money voicing over ads.
12 or
Yeah.
10, I don't remember, but she was.
I basically gave the people who paid her, I gave them our bank information, and I had to pay tax on that. So I subtracted the tax from her pay, and she was like, "That is so unfair. I already spent that money."
Yeah.
In my mind.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is pretty unfair.
I mean, I don't know. It is actually fair, but
But if we take, I mean, like if out of every tax dollar that we pay, that goes towards schools, we can actually control it, and we can actually get accountable, education, something that makes sense, not just pays. Because if you look at the way the U.S. government spending on education structured is a bit weird. So it's most of the school funding comes from community budgets, from local cities and towns and counties. A little bit comes from the state, and then special programs and charter schools, they're from the government. But the biggest part of the government spending on the federal level is supporting the pension funds that have guaranteed return for teacher pensions.
was
So
supporting.
yeah,
Because
was
now
support,
they're
yes.
just
Now,
now they're closed. So.
but a lot of things kind of don't make sense. I think this was one of the crazy ones, because if you're if you're a hedge fund manager or a fund of funds manager and just a money manager, and you manage pension funds for teacher union, like for teachers, you have guaranteed returns. You can mess up as bad as you want, and the government will just compensate the teachers. That is so unfair.
In so many ways, in
Yeah.
fact.
I mean,
it's so unfair in so many ways.
And just yes, I understand that teachers want good pensions, so do firefighters, so do police officers, but it's just promotes
and we,
bad
by the
behavior.
way, we as society want them to have it.
Yes, 100%.
Like, this is very important.
Yeah, very important. These
Yes.
are, public servants.
Yeah.
And teachers are very, very important. But it just promotes horrible behavior by fund managers where they just take risks.
I mean, that's true in multiple players in the fund, in pension funds.
Yeah.
Like, there are a lot of, oh my God, stories about pension funds, right?
That's pretty crazy. So, with all of the change that is happening now, it's so volatile and unpredictable. Yesterday we woke up to new tariffs, which are calculated in a very funny way. You heard, right?
Yeah, I didn't only hear, like, you look at this and you're like, I mean, okay, but the numbers?
They did divide.
I mean, we're cutting this, right? This is not,
Yeah,
no,
this is
okay.
off record, so
Okay.
it's just funny. Like once I realized that it's just
is this for reals?
trade, I was like, this is vibe coding at its finest. It's like people ask ChatGPT, and they just applied it across the board, and then they basically to list the countries.
Talk about like having the skills to use the tool.
Oh yeah. This is what happens
What was
when
that?
legislators
Oh my
don't
God.
really know how to prompt ChatGPT.
Oh God.
I mean, well, their opinions. That is just a starting point to put everybody at the negotiation table to renegotiate stuff.
I mean,
But
still, like, just have your numbers, like, just have your ducks in a row. How hard is that?
yeah, it's funny.
I mean, like, one can have radical opinions and actions and like do bold things, maybe,
Yeah.
but at least have your numbers straight. Like, really.
So much.
Thank you so
for-
much.
for
That
this.
was super fun.
Welcome to the Deconstructed VC podcast, where Marina and
Nick Davidov are talking to founders trying to deconstruct their businesses.
so we can understand the way they work better, and you can maybe learn something new. And we also help our portfolio founders promote their products and also, help them with hiring if you guys want to join.
Yes.
Yeah.